Good evening. My name is Robin Abrams. I am delighted at the turnout. Thank you very much for coming. I'd like to begin by thanking the sponsors, Courtyard Marriott, John Chalice and Michael Liam. Michael's here on my left, who are just very generous in terms of offering not only this room, but also the wine and the hors d'oeuvres, and again, for the benefit of Los Altos Education Foundation. And Michael wanted to let the community know that this room is available Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for just these kinds of events, because he really would like to be more involved with the community. And so to that end, some of you signed in, so we're going to do one drawing now for a free room, and I will reach in here and hopefully not get a friend. It looks like Chuck Lindauer. Hey, good for you, Chuck. Great. And we'll do another drawing a little bit later. Okay, perfect. Great. Great. So, Chuck, you can come up. Well, I'll just pass it to you. Michael, thanks very much. Thank you. Thanks for all your hospitality. So I'd also like to thank some other sponsors tonight, and these are people that helped with the editorial, coming up with the questions, and working with us. So Los Altos Rotary, Los Altos Education Foundation, Gardner Bullis PTA, Los Altos Community Foundation, and Greentown Los Altos. So thank you all very much for helping us. So let me tell you about the format of this evening. We will stop promptly at 9:30. I do run a railroad. And I've asked the candidates to begin with opening remarks, and those will be 3 minutes. My good friend Mike O'Malley is here on the right, the third person on the right, and Mike is actually the timekeeper. So you will see, you'll hear some bells going off, and the candidates will time themselves. We'll begin with Val Carpenter, who's our incumbent, here in just a minute. And then the journalists this evening are Bruce Barton from the Los Altos Town Crier. Bruce, thank you very much. And Dave Price from the Daily Post. Thank you very much, Dave, for coming. And then they will begin asking questions. And then after they have asked a round of questions, then I will actually ask some questions that were the most popular ones from the Los Altos 2025 website that's many of you submitted by Google Moderator. So without further, and we're going to hand around a clipboard because a number of you ask about how do you get more information, and so there'll be clipboards going up and down. And then you all will have noticed two things on the seats of your chairs. Number one, some propaganda, and I use that word lovingly in terms of LEF, what the Education Foundation stands for, and then also a 3x5 card. So if there is a question that you are concerned that won't get asked, you don't have to put your name on it at all. Just take and pass it to the aisle, and there will be someone that picks it up, and hopefully we will get to that question. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Val Carpenter. Val?
Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Robin, for that introduction, and thank you all for taking the time to be here. As you know, I'm running for my second and final term on the Los Altos City Council. Prior to being elected to council, I served on both the Los Altos Planning Commission and the Los Altos Historical Commission. After the children my husband and I raised in Los Altos left for college, I ran for and was elected to my first term on the City Council, and I had the honor of serving as your mayor in 2008. After I earned my MBA at Stanford, I worked at the Vice President of Marketing level in Silicon Valley for both publicly held companies as well as venture-funded startups. Once I was elected, I refocused my career on teaching at several local colleges to free up the 20 to 30 hours a week that serving on the City Council requires. Listening to you and working on your behalf is my top priority. I've also served on the board of directors of 4 nonprofit organizations, and I currently serve on the board of the Los Altos Village Association. I'm also a lifetime Girl Scout, and as a Gold Award advisor, I guided 7 local high school girls through earning the top honor in Girl Scouting. Over the past decade in city life, I've worked effectively with my colleagues, with the city staff, and with residents like you on a broad range of issues. I propose practical solutions in the long-term interest of the entire community, and I strive to balance desired changes with preserving what is cherished. The current council has been very proactive and accomplished much, from hiring an outstanding new city manager 3 years ago to consistently delivering balanced budgets with increased reserves improvements in infrastructure, and no cuts in services. And we're beginning to see the results of significant zoning changes downtown that were carefully designed to encourage redevelopment at the north and south ends of the triangle while preserving Main Street's cherished appeal. There's more new construction about to happen in the next 12 months than I can recall in 20 years of living just a few blocks from downtown. It's a very exciting time for the city. You can visit my campaign website at valcarpenter.com for detailed highlights of the current council's accomplishments over the past year. The best way to judge what I will do is by what I have done. I know the issues, and I've demonstrated my leadership in addressing them. I'm ready to build on the solid foundation that this current council has laid. This forum is focused on downtown vitalization and sustainability. I fell in love with Los Altos 30 years ago, and we bought our first home in town 20 years ago, right across the street so our then small children could walk downtown. I'm there several times a day, and I think I know it as well as anyone does. And that's why I led the Downtown Development Committee through a 2-year process, public process, to restore its vitality without sacrificing its charm or its ability to serve the community's daily needs. While downtown is near and dear to my heart, the City Council deals with a wide diversity of issues affecting all of our commercial areas, residential neighborhoods, and public facilities, and I urge you to consider who best can address all the issues our city faces when casting your vote in this election. Please vote for Val.
Val, thank you very much. Jarrett Fishpaw.
There we go. My name is Jarrett Fishpaw. I am delighted to be here in front of you all this evening. I thank you for attending. I've lived here in Los Altos for the last 23 years. I've been born and raised in this city. I attended schools such as Santa Rita, Egan Junior High School, and Los Altos High School. While attending Los Altos High School, I began working with the Los Altos Village Association, helping to run events such as our Art and Wine Festival, our movie nights, and our farmers markets. These events are designed basically to provide two main features for our community. Number one is that they provide a place for our community to come together, for you to meet your neighbors and you to see the community of Los Altos. I think that's something they achieve greatly. The second priority of these events is to help drive commerce in our downtown. One of the reasons that I was very interested to get involved with the city is through these events, I've worked with multiple facets of our city government, including the Municipal Service Center, the Police Department, and our Economic Development Coordinator. These events, while they do drive a lot of people to come to our downtown and visit our downtown, our Art and Wine Festival hosts over 100,000 people during the 2-day event. We're not seeing these events revitalize our downtown. I want to bring this perspective that I have as a resident of Los Altos for the last 23 years, as an alumni from our schools here in Los Altos, into City Council. After attending Los Altos High School, I began attending UC Santa Cruz, just over the hill from here, where I received my bachelor's in business management economics, and then I continued on to receive my master's in applied economics and finance. During my master's program, I studied a lot about applied economics, and I began to really fall in love with the process of city government. After finishing my master's at UC Santa Cruz, I was employed by Cisco Systems, where I now work, and I work part-time remote, so that provides me a great amount of flexibility to be able to attend a lot of our city's committee meetings and functions that I have been attending for some time. I think that the perspective that I bring to this city is going to be very important. I'm presenting myself as somebody who understands the needs of future generations here in Los Altos. And I also have parents that live here in Los Altos. I understand the needs of older adults in our community. I understand the needs of these adults and the vibrancy that they bring. I think that this is what I look forward to serving our community for. And I really thank you for coming out and meeting all of our candidates here this evening, because this is the best part about running for election is getting to introduce our statements to you. So thank you.
Jarrett, thank you very much. Nancy Carlson.
Hello. Thank you all for coming. I'm Nancy Carlson, and I had prepared a speech on all of the things I've done in the city. Hold it closer. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I had prepared a speech on what I've done working with downtown, some of the activities that I've done, the things I've done for the 23 years that I've lived here, and I thought, you know, it's not a very long list. I can't compete with some of the candidates who have been in council before in terms of endorsements or in terms of the committees that they've worked on. I have been involved in the city. You can go to my website and you can check and see what I have done. It's a short list, but I'm here for one reason, actually. Not only because I want to get involved, but because the town crier ran an editorial that said, thank you, Bruce, running for office is an opportunity for residents to make a positive difference in their communities that could affect generations to come. An opportunity for some to make life meaningful. This editorial also stated that we look forward to more of you doing the same thing, throwing your hat in the ring. And I thought, it's talking to me. And that's really what our newspapers are supposed to do. They're supposed to motivate us to action. And that's why I'm here. I'm motivated to action. And regardless of what happens in this race, I'm here because I want to make a difference and I want to participate. Every candidate at this table wants safe streets, a community pool, services for youth and seniors, a balanced budget, good schools, strong home appreciation rates, and economic vitality in our business districts. What is the compelling reason to vote for me? Well, I'm different. I have a job in Los Altos. I'm raising 3 children here. That doesn't disqualify me from public office because I have children or because I'm working in downtown. It makes me qualified. I have strong feelings about what I think needs to happen in the downtown. I think we need to improve our economy by looking at things very differently. We need a paradigm shift in what we need to do downtown to make sure that we can sustain our economy here. We need to look at parking very differently. We need to look at how we communicate with residents very differently. We can't just have city council meetings and invite people to come and let them speak for 1 to 3 minutes and expect that we're going to have a meaningful dialogue about what the vision of Los Altos needs to be. I think we need to vision. We need to get input from all of the residents, find out what everyone wants this city to look like in 20 years, and we need to find a way to get there. Thank you.
Nancy, thank you very much. And last, Curtis Cole.
Thank you. I'm Curtis Cole. Nancy, that was very well done. Thank you. I appreciate that. That was well done. You cut a lot of concepts. I do have 2 votes. I haven't figured out what to do with the second one. I served a term on city council in 2003. At the time I did that, my oldest was 10 years old. She was going to be in the house for another 8 years. I figured I could spend 4 of them on the council, and the other 4 I'd rather be home. Thank you very much. So I only served 1 term. 3 years after serving that term being mayor in 2007, I now have an opportunity to look back and say, if I could do that over again, what would I do differently? Where was I successful? Where was I most effective? Where does the community need my particular skills? 3 areas come to mind that I want to talk about and focus in that might make me different from the other candidates. The first is the downtown, and it's true we all support the downtown. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that right now because the questions for the rest of the evening will be about that. But the other 2 components of my motivation are very, very important and tie into having a new revitalized downtown. And the first of that is community building. The City Council is uniquely positioned within our community to facilitate cooperation among our various groups. And the first step in that is acknowledging that the hard problems that we have left, such as downtown, traffic around our schools and such, these are shared problems. We all own them. It's not a school district problem. It's not a city problem. They're owned by all of them. And you start with that, and then you move on to how do we get those groups together so that when next time we read an editorial in the town crier, it says, you know, the city and the schools are working jointly and have put together this plan to address such and such a difficult problem, rather than one side and the other side, and the residents are being frustrated at the finger pointing. I believe that in my years on the City Council and my 10 years of volunteering before the City Council, I've been a bridge builder, and I can reach out and communicate in the various groups. I've got endorsements from school board members. I've got endorsements from some council members, and I want to work with all of those people in the future. The third area is supporting our youth and seniors, and of course that's a motherhood and apple pie. Everybody wants to do that, but let's talk about a specific. I want to make sure that our streets are safe. Take a look at 880 cities, where you might look at an 8-year-old on a bike and an 80-year-old, maybe the grandparent, and ask yourself, Do we live in a community where you'd feel safe sending those two off to school or sending them to downtown to grab some ice cream? I think you'll find that we're woefully lacking in our infrastructure there. Now, if we do it right with our infrastructure on making it safe for pedestrians and bicyclists, then with a 10% reduction around our schools, you get 10% fewer cars. Suddenly it's like rolling back 10 years of traffic problems around our city. If you designed it downtown and pick the right businesses down there where people will bike and walk to downtown, suddenly you've got a community that's unique and you're building a community fabric and people are supporting the businesses in downtown. So I think they all fit together in what I like to call a civic infrastructure, and I want to work on that fabric and improving the civic infrastructure within our community. Thank you for your time.
Candidates, thank you very much. So now we'll move to a bit of a different format. The first question, Bruce, is over to you, and we'll have each candidate, and in the beginning, each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer the question. Don't forget your cards. If you have a question, move them to the right aisle, please. Thank you.
So there's been a lot of development, or there have been a lot of development plans surrounding First Street in recent months, and the latest deal with First and Main is just one example of the massive projects that are going on there. The streetscape, the rebuilding of the post office site, 48 units for condominiums, et cetera. So what I'm wondering is how you folks feel about what's going on there, and do you feel that First Street is a catalyst to downtown revitalization?
And so what we're going to do is, Jarrett, you'll ask, then we'll go down, and then the next question will come the other way. So Jarrett, will you begin answering that question, please?
All right. I think First Street is an excellent example of where the potential in our downtown really lies. I think that our downtown has a number of unique parts to it, some of which are on Main and State Street. I do not believe that the development we've seen on First Street is going to be mimicked on Main or State Street. I think that those streets really hold the character of our downtown. The areas that we're going to see a lot of potential in our downtown are included in the periphery of the downtown. This includes areas surrounding the parking plazas. This includes First Street. I think that in recent years, we have seen some changes along First Street, especially in the zoning. That's why Randy Lamb's project at 100 First Street was able to move forward and find a lender for that project. But there have been other projects in the downtown that have not moved forward, that have been approved but have not moved forward. And I think that that's partially a sign of where the holdups are in our downtown. Some of the projects, such as the old Bank of the West building on 3rd Street, has been approved by our council but has not moved forward because I don't believe the parking situation has been solved. I think that the 2 levels of underground parking that we see on that parcel show that there are still places that our downtown needs to have the city council reevaluate how we're going to move forward with some of these parcels that provide great potential, that provide the ability for vibrancy to really be restored in our downtown. But we're not going to see that along Main or State Street. I think that the redevelopment that we're seeing on First Street is going to be followed around the periphery of the downtown.
Val, thank you.
I'm very excited about the development that is happening in downtown, which is a direct result of the zoning changes that this city council has put in place. Bruce mentioned several of theirs. There's more. There's as he said, the 48-unit condominium project going in at the old post office site, the First and Main development, which will be a mixed-use retail and office development, Class A office with larger retail spaces, which we desperately need. We have that option to purchase agreement in place. Safeway has come back to the table to build a brand new Safeway because of the First and Main option to purchase agreement. We have a streetscape plan that the city is funding. We are undergrounding utilities along all of First Street and putting in wider sidewalks and more inviting spaces outdoors so you can sit and eat and walk and stroll down First Street. All of this is a result of the work that the current council has done. And there's more. There's the Packard Foundation project, which has begun, and we now have a development agreement for a LEED Platinum building, maybe the first in the country for that corporate office there with, again, more people downtown. We have an approved streetscape plan for San Antonio Road, and we're waiting for the environmental impact report on the development of the parking plazas and an opportunity for that. That could add as many as 500 to 800 new office workers downtown, as well as provide 200 new public parking places. So I'm thrilled with the development that we have. People know that I do believe that Main Street won't change, partly because of ownership and partly because a lot of people love the Chinese pistache and the low profile and the charm of our downtown with its historic buildings. But there's a lot of room for other projects, and we're just beginning that. And all of this, again, is the work of the council that you have seated today. Thank you.
I want to make sure I get my full 2 minutes, Mike. I think the work that's going on at First Street is a new chapter, the beginning of a new chapter for Los Altos. And it's more than just the buildings and the physical infrastructure there. What I really want to see as a change is the change in attitude of the retail community towards Los Altos. I want Los Altos now to be seen as a business-friendly city, where we've seen these projects go forward. Safeway has come forward. The city staff and the city council is supportive of this new construction. And taking that the next step, we work with our economic development coordinator and LAVA and the business groups downtown and actually market Los Altos as a relatively recession-proof and business-friendly downtown. And it's going to take that kind of work that will get retail businesses downtown. Not just building the buildings, it's actually going to take marketing the whole town. And I think we're moving well forward on that.
I think every building that we have the opportunity to redevelop is an opportunity that we lock ourselves into for 20 or 30 years. We need to maximize our potential at every location to make sure. When I started this process, I didn't want high density, but I've learned a lot in the last several weeks. And I think we need to maximize our density downtown to make sure that we are recession-proof. We still have issues, excuse me, with parking, where it can cost a developer $30,000 per stall to implement additional parking spaces. We need to think about that. We need to think about those requirements. If we share our parking structures, if we share our available space, I think it'll make our development more friendly in downtown, and we'll be able to maximize the potential for each site. We have a study that was done in 2007 in the downtown area to evaluate office parking, and it was determined in a study by Fair and Peers, again in 2007, that we were utilizing about 2.86 spaces per 1,000 square feet of space, and we're actually zoning for much more than that to give ourselves the flexibility in the event that we have extraordinary circumstances. That's money that we're throwing away, in my opinion. We need to think more intelligently about how we zone and how we park, and that'll give us the opportunity to have more space in each location and perhaps prevent us from having to pay additional parcel taxes down the line when we need more money for our schools, which we will need very shortly.
Nancy, thanks. Okay, Dave, over to you.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Should City Council enter into secret negotiating agreements with developers? If so, under what circumstances? Referring to the Morris agreement, which lasted for 7 months, and it was a situation where we asked the officials what was being negotiated and what was else. Would you have gone, for the people who are not incumbents here, the three candidates, would you have gone along with the closed door agreement? Or would you have objected to it? And when we get to Val on this one, maybe you could explain your reasoning for why you wanted to have a closed door negotiation.
And this time we'll start, Nancy, with you.
No, I don't think we should do anything in
secret. There are two issues with that. The city has a couple of responsibilities. One of them is their management of community assets. And they owned a piece of property, or still own 3/4 of an acre at First and Main. And they need to manage that, and if they're going to sell it, as we are, they need to get the best value for the community. That's the intangible and the intangibles for that. State law permits, and if I were negotiating, I would negotiate my side in secret as well. They can do it behind closed doors. They can develop their own negotiating positions. They have to negotiate their price, it seems to me, in private. Otherwise, they're going to mismanage the community asset. They're not going to get the value for the land that they would if they did it in public. But the second half of their responsibility is in community communications. And I think the City Council did not communicate to the rest of the community what they were doing and why. It seems to me they could have communicated why they're negotiating, what their negotiating parameters were, what the building heights were, if there were any flexibility on heights, mixture of retail, office, what were the values the community wanted to get other than price, for example, so that when the contract was actually exposed to the public, as it was last Tuesday, the only thing the community would have been surprised about would have been the price. The rest of those details would have been known. So I think you can still manage the community's financial assets in secret and do the rest of that in public.
I guess I'm on the hot seat. To pick up on what Curtis said, by state law, the City Council must conduct its business in public. There's only a few exceptions, and one of them is the negotiation of the sale or lease of real property. It's not in the community's interest to negotiate against itself, which is likely what would happen if all of the negotiating terms were subject to the public process. The RFP in this case, the request for proposal, was a public document. It was sent out to almost 700 to 800 developers and commercial realtors. It is not like what we were looking for was a secret. The reality is that we ended up with an option to purchase agreement with a quality developer for an excellent price for a concept that could provide desperately needed large retail spaces downtown, built to current modern retail standards that we don't have a lot of, and also Class A office space that will bring high-income individuals to spend their money in downtown Los Altos. And I think this is a real win for the city. There is flexibility it meets all current zoning, it's fully parked, and the design will go through a complete public process from Architecture and Site Review Committee to the Planning Commission to the City Council, and I encourage you all to participate in that process.
So I think one thing that's very important to remember is that the negotiation for the price of the property is what should be done in secret. I think that that should be done behind closed doors. That is the process of the city. When the city manager was hired in Los Altos, his salary was decided behind closed doors. That's not something that the public is involved with generally. I do believe that the areas where the public feels there was some secrecy, that there was some confusion, was that the request for proposals was done in 2008. Since 2008, the city had not reissued a request for proposals. So in some aspects, many individuals felt that the city was doing this negotiation in secret because more developers were not invited to the table again in 2010 when the market conditions had changed from 2008. The real estate community is very aware of what's happening in our city, and even here in Los Altos, we did hear realtors, buyers and sellers of property that publicly announced that they knew the transaction was happening. If they had had an interest in purchasing that land parcel, they would have stepped forward to the city and made their offer during the 7 months when the negotiations were occurring. I think that, as Curtis has touched upon, it is very important to keep the community well educated as to what is happening. The difficulty in this negotiation was that the community felt completely in the dark, and that should not be the case. I think that our intentions were looked out after by our council, and you have to remember that we do elect these members of council to serve on our best interest. If the confusion that is encapsulating that process is misinterpreted, it can be a difficult situation for both the council members and for the public when everybody thinks that nobody's being proper in the time period.